of you. It is so wonderful to have you here to discuss the insane history-making journey of All We Imagine Is Light. Before we kick off, I want to introduce some members of your team over here.
Thank you all for coming today. We also have here with us Zico, who is the producer of the movie, and also Ronabir, who is the cinematographer and producer. It's a unique combo.
Payal, I want to start with what the last 5 months have been like. It's been about 5 months since the film made history at Cannes. I wanted to ask you, what has been the most pinch me, holy shit, I can't believe this is actually happening moment? Let me give you a couple of options and then you can tell me. You have the 8-minute standing ovation at Cannes after the world premiere. You have winning the grand prize, being handed the award by Viola Davis. You have the 5-star review from Meet the Brand Show in The Guardian, amongst many others. You have making it to the Times 100 list with a curiously penned note by Vaishnav Khurana. You have, obviously today we are on the eve of the grand premiere of the film at Mumbai Film Festival, and you're about to release it in India, UK and US. So, and that delightfully viral red carpet dancing moment, which I think we all love. So what has been the most pinch me moment amongst all of that, or is it something that I haven't even mentioned?
I mean, all of it was a lot and was very surreal, and it's a film that we took very many years to make, and so getting selected was already, we were pleasantly surprised and honored. But I think all of it leads to one thing that I am the most excited still about, is that the film will release in India and people will go and buy a ticket to watch my movie. That makes me really happy.
I think this is a good time for you guys to announce the India release date, if you want to do the honors.
Yeah, sure. Let's go. Hi guys, good afternoon. I'm Rana Daggubati, usually not known for films like these. But All We Imagine Is Light will have a large pan-Indian theatrical release on the 22nd of November. And so one is, it's a huge honor for us to be part of this film and bring it to all of you guys. And thank you, Payal, first for such an awesome film that you've made and partnering with us to get this film out.
No, I wanted to ask you about this wonderfully unlikely collaboration. You are someone who has in the past championed, various films. We talked about 777 Charlie, Gadi, there was Care of Kancharapalam. But, we were discussing this earlier, and I still feel a lot of those films still have a very mainstream syntax. They're still very crowd-pleasing films in a lot of ways. This is the first time that you've backed and presented a true blue indie darling with Payal. So what drew you to it? What made you feel like you wanted to be part of this journey?
So see, even now after 20 years in the movies, I still feel what is independent and what is mainstream. We always had a thought where cinema that had big song and dance was the mainstream cinema, and everything that had a unique story and emotion became independent, because it was always hard to release without big stars in it, without big other names attached. And now I think India has gone to that phase. So like my career actually started with a film called Bommalata, which was an independent film that won national awards, but we couldn't get a theatrical release at that point. From then on, it was trying to find space for this. In India, unlike the rest of the world, there's no government grants or anything for filmmakers or art in that form. It's just always been the merit of the film and a few filmmakers that have really championed films out there. So the few films that you mentioned earlier were really the start of many things that we did. All of them had a certain regional understanding. I mean, I come from Telugu cinema, so Care of Kancharapalam was the first film, which was, for us, an all-independent film, but the humor in that film made it slightly more mainstream.
It is such a lovely film, I will say that it is.
Thank you, but again, when I saw All We Imagine, right, to me it was almost like watching a regular Malayalam film. To me it was not independent in that sense, because Malayalam cinema has a storytelling or a narrative that it's used to in this style. And I just feel like with this we're trying to break the format of how an independent film should be released in India, because it can't take the regular route of here you go, you have a big pre-release and then there's 30 days of promotion and the film is out. I think it needs a different cycle. So we started with a release in Kerala. We want to keep moving across different states. Tomorrow is the screening at Mami, and then they will follow a bunch of screenings across different states before we do a main theatre.
I do have a different approach to a film like this, but Payal, first I have to ask the same question to you. I know that you got various phone calls from various fancy people in terms of distributing this film. So what was it about Rana that you felt that these were the right hands for the journey of this film?
I think they had a very well-planned distribution approach, which would kind of understand what the film could do in different regions and also in the Kerala film industry. So the kind of the understanding of that it's not a film that we can just release nationwide without a thought to the kind of film it is. I felt they were very sensitive to that, and I really respected that look at distribution, because distribution can be just putting some money into something and releasing it, but to really think about how to place the film correctly, I felt that they really had a great sensitivity to that.
Thank you.
I was various different countries and film festivals around the world, which is a wonderful problem to have. But just talk us through where it started. I believe this film has been with you for 6 years. It's something you were thinking about during your time at FTI.
Yeah, it took a long time. It was a film that when I was a student at FTI, I was making my final diploma project, and at that time I was in different hospital situations with 2 family members. And when you're a student filmmaker, you find everything very interesting. I think that's true of all filmmakers. We find life more interesting than cinema, and that is our privilege as filmmakers. So I was very keen to make a film, and I wanted to make a film about women who are in the working space. And a hospital provides a good kind of environment to have multiple issues that you can bring up. So I felt it would be the right space to make a film. But as I started researching more and the city came in a big way, then I realized that I wanted to make a much longer film. And it took many years then to write the script and do more research and raise funding for it. So that was the kind of starting point, and it's now finished after 5 years.
Finished is an understatement. It's now being celebrated. I think in terms of what you're watching, it's not all that different. To mine, it's a lot of mass moments and big BGM and entry sequences and thundering background score and swag. And I'm not looking down on those films. They can be immense fun, but I'm curious to know, as an audience, what do you feel you get when you step away from that and watch a film as meaningful and soulful as this one? Because it feels like it appeals to a very different part of our being.
See, one is what fascinated me always, forget being a filmmaker, or just as a human, is India is so diverse in its culture, and very little of that is translated to film. And I just feel like anything that's slice of life that we're able to showcase a certain culture in India needs to be shown to the rest of the country, because we're extremely different, but we're still unique and still alike. So I think that's what cinema like All We Imagine does really well, where you see the story of Malayali nurses in Bombay, in a city like Bombay, which is really for everyone. It's your city, but it's not. And I've been in this city almost like 15 years now, coming and going, but there's a certain love that I have for the city, but there's something wrong happens, it spits me right out back. So I think that's the beauty that this film has, and I think it really requires more filmmakers to make cinema like this and just find unique ways to release them, that's all.
In terms of Bombay, I read an interview just saying that, mild spoiler alert, your film opens with these little sort of voiceover vignettes of everyday Mumbaikars talking about their relationship with the city. And I could have watched just 2 hours of that. I literally
2 hours of that.
I literally fell in love with your movie before I met a single main character or got a sense of plot. So, what is it about this city that really drew you in as a storyteller? Because the way you capture the feeling of Bombay, it's such a romantic but also like achingly tragic way. And you've also said that the next film you may be working on is also based on the history of the city. So, what is it about the city that keeps drawing you in as a storyteller?
See, I am from here, so for me it's the city I know best, and it's a city that I didn't always grow up in. Like I would be studying in different parts of the country and coming back to Mumbai. And I think when you leave a place and come back, you see the changes more evidently, and you realize what the city comes to mean to you in different ages of your life and different times. And for me, the city is full of contradiction, like any big city is, because Mumbai, in some ways, for a lot of women, it's a city which is a little bit easier to navigate, to negotiate, to work late. compared to many other parts of our country. And but it's also such an expensive city, and it's a city where like to live comfortably you need to do a lot of work, and you don't really get any time off. You spend like 1 hour in the train every day just to go anywhere. Then it rains at the harbour and will stop, and so these things are part of our life. But it's also a city that brings us delight. So it was all these contradictions that I have a love-hate relationship with it. I can't live without it, but it's a city with a lot of problems also.
There's a beautiful line in the film I really want to quote. The illusion or else you'll go mad, which is a wonderful way of phrasing it. Rana, I wanted to ask you about this idea of pan-India. It's this tag that has been, and in a lot of ways this film sort of challenges that, because pan-India is known as this almost distribution tag. It's referring to specific kinds of casting and packaging for blockbusters to appeal to different markets. And here you have a film about Malayali nurses in Bombay that flips between Malayalam and Hindi and Marathi and English in bits. So do you hope that it's sort of a film that's pan-India in spirit, not packaging? So do you hope that this is the kind of pan-India film that we get to see more of?
See, I think the word pan-India has been coined with the release of Bahubali. That's the first time a Telugu film was watched in different places, and we knew that one story can be told to the rest of the country. But then that word is just overused in funny ways now. But I think truly in spirit, I think All We Imagine is a film that is not dubbed in a certain regional language. It's not going language to language. It has a source of being in Bombay. For an audience who speaks Hindi, it's as much there. For an audience who speaks Malayalam, it's as much there. For everybody else who connects with the idea of women in a workplace, of just living life the hard way, and what you have to deal with in India, I think it just cuts that very beautifully. In terms of its release, I think it's probably bigger than all the pan-Indian films have been, because globally I don't think very few films get to release in as many countries as it does. And we just heard about the release in France. I don't think any Indian films has actually went out there and released in that size. But I think India means everything, and I just feel like now is the time where boundaries are kind of blurred away, and everyone's accepting of one another much more than what we were earlier. If I say 15, 20 years ago when I first came to Bombay, no one knew where Hyderabad was, where Chennai was, which city was what. They thought I spoke Tamil. People here used to call me, say, watch a Malayalam film and say, do you know what this means? But that was the awareness then, and then today it's very, very different. So I think it's time that we're growing to understand India better, and I think this pan-India movement is really coming of age right now. And I'm hoping with All We Imagine, we have many more films like this and cinema like this becomes mainstream.
We definitely hope so. Sorry, did you just...
Okay, no, I was asking, are you going to continue with independent cinema, or are there other genres that you're going to explore, and what are your new projects?
See, I never say never. You never know where life takes you. And when you become a filmmaker, you try to take every opportunity to be able to make the film that you want to make. So I think that will always continue. The mode of getting there, we'll see. Hopefully it won't take this much time like last time.
It's a happy note that you're still living each day to this one learning opportunity.
Yeah, but
Hi.
The tragedy is some of the finest films about India from Indian filmmakers of the last few years have to go abroad and get acclaim from Sundance or Cannes or the Oscars. For a lot of people who have to sit up and take it seriously, for a lot of us, she was the pilot before this film. So, how do we bridge that gap and sort of give that talent its due?
See, like you just mentioned the word pan-India. See, unlike the rest of the world where one country has one industry and you go to one place to solve all cinema problems, India, you have 20 places to solve it. Each region is almost a country of its own. And until a few years ago, no one even spoke the same language actually in terms of understanding how to bridge those gaps. Like, for example, Telugu films landed up here because of one or two channels deciding that they just need more content and just dub up Telugu films in Hindi. And on that bedrock is where all the other Bahubalis and Ghazis sat from there on. So I think now is a time where we're somewhere sensing that there is this one industry where there is some cinema that will cut across India, doesn't matter where you make it. So I think it's in that early stage, though we're 100 years old in cinema, like each region has its history. But really as a cinematic nation, probably this is year 4 or year 5 for us in that sense. So I think it is an uphill battle, but I think with filmmakers like Payal, I just hope she makes more films. She's taken a long time to make this. But I hope, it's consistency and creating a habit. And once it's a habit, then I think everything changes very quickly. If you know that, okay, every month there is a film of this nature that you can watch in a cinema close to you, I think that's going to become a habit. That will become education, that will become culture for you. You'll understand the world in a much better way than what you would have otherwise.
I do want to ask you about the release program.
You see from Gary Bhaskar. सबसे पहले तो आपको बहुत सारी बधाई। कांस फिल्म फेस्टिवल में पहले फिल्म इतने साल बाद इतना अच्छा उसने प्रदर्शन किया, उसके लिए आपको पहले बधाई। सो मेरा ये क्वेश्चन है, मैं थोड़ी क्यूरियस भी हूँ जानने के लिए कि ऑल वी इमेजिन इज लाइफ में किस चीज़ ने आपको बहुत इंस्पायर किया है फीमेल आइडेंटिटी और अर्बन लाइफ को दुनिया के सामने लाने के लिए, ये मैं जानना चाहूँगी आपसे।
फिल्म इज बेसिकली अबाउट फ्रेंडशिप और जो फिल्म की जो कैरेक्टर्स हैं उनके बीच जो एक बॉन्ड बनता है वो बहुत मुंबई स्पेसिफिक बॉन्ड है, जो हम अलग अलग स्टेट से यहाँ आते हैं और यहाँ पे अपना करियर बनाते हैं, तो हमारी फैमिली बन जाती है वो उन लोगों के साथ जिनके साथ हम रहते हैं। We do not have already met those people, so they become our family, and that is one of the things that is very important to me in the film.
आगे आप और किस टॉपिक पे फिल्म बनाना चाहेंगे, आपने कुछ और सोचा है इसके बारे में?
मुझे मुंबई को लेके बहुत ही इंटरेस्ट है और यही शहर पे और फिल्म बनानी है, तो आई थिंक और 2 फिल्म तो बनी मुंबई पर।
मुंबई ट्रिलॉजी।
हाँ।
So my question is कि
there you are. Sorry, this light.
So नाना ने बोला कि उस तरह की फिल्मों में इस तरह की फिल्में उन्होंने नहीं की, इस तरह का दूसरा है। So now are you planning to cast him in your kind of film, or is Rana ready to do a film like that?
That's the first thing I ask.
Yeah, if he's doing it, then I would be very very happy.
And one more thing, Rana, आप उनको कोई ऐसी फिल्म देना चाहते हैं जैसी फिल्में आप करते हैं या कमर्शियल फिल्म? Are you ready to do that?
So the idea is to make sure this runs as well as the commercial cinema does, and then you will start calling this commercial after this.
वो अच्छा होता है ना?
So we're not going to say Payal or Mass movie next one.
अरे never say never. Anything can become mass. I just we hope for the best.
Hi, Payal, this is Priyanka from Perfect Way in Accounts. I want to actually take it from where Sushin said about, how so many of these independent films were meant to release. And I think after your win, so many of the independent voices spoke up and said that there are immediate changes that are needed, in the landscape, whether it's from the government, kind of to resurrect NFDC, or to kind of issue grants, and for the industry to also kind of champion these independent voices. For you to be in the center and to this, taken this journey and come so far, what do you feel is the desperate change that the independent filmmaking landscape in India needs?
We can talk a lot about the independent landscape in India and how much support we need, and that is true. But people keep saying 30 years in Cannes and this kind of thing. That's not them, man. Like, we have great films and we should have selected more. So,
Do you think that happens in a lot of other countries is also something that the government or we as a country should look at?
we always had grants. Like till a few years ago, there were grants, and especially there was also distribution that these films would get, whether it was shown on Doordarshan or we could see films like that. So I think we need to have some way that people have access to funding, or at least if industries could meet each other, because to make independent films doesn't cost all that much. So if there is just a way to communicate with each other and find a way that films can be financed, no matter how big or small they are, wouldn't that be nice?
Yeah, absolutely.
You come on with this project as a distributor.
So first, I think the first 10 minutes of the film I was really blown. Like blown with First, the performances of the actors. Like, I was sitting and I watched the film with my wife actually, and I was just blown the fact. I was like, okay, this is a movie. This is not real. And I'm watching them perform. And after a point, you're like just being cynical. You're like, okay, they'll make a mistake somewhere, and they just did. It was so phenomenal, and I was like, to me, it was like just cinema class, theatre class, everything happening at once. I was just so happy to meet her, just happy to have this in our community. And I just feel if we're able to show this to more people, more filmmakers, there are certain tastes that we can create for our audience. I think that's really a victory for us. Like as I'm a fan of commercial cinema. I love movies. I love movies of all kinds, but this was very, very special. The first very moment I watched it. Like he said, the first title sequence of this film has a few Mumbaikars speaking. I mean, it starts from there, and then the three ladies just blow you off after that.
Also, we can say that the international film festival also, you know. So can we say that this kind of film, also filmmakers like you, the change is beginning. Now more female filmmakers are coming up with their talent.
I think it is. I am part of those many female filmmakers whose films are now showing. So I think it's because of that movement that I am also part of it, not vice versa.
Hello. Right, for the movie, and the title is also very unique. And my question is for Rana sir. Sir, if ever a documentary is made on you, and you are given if you are given a chance to name that documentary the title, so what title will you give it? Just like this movie has got a very unique title, what title will be for your documentary?
You will speak in 20 years from now. And I hope I achieve something proper, and you will have a documentary.
Still, sir, if there is a title you want to give it, like 20 years later as well.
So I'm just trying to figure out the story of my life. I didn't still get set a title for it. My name is Rana Dattwari, and I think that's a good way to start.
Thank you.
So you make a film, and the film goes out, and then people start calling the film Indian, not Indian enough. What is an Indian film? Because at some point is it because it's made by Indians, it's funded by Indians, it's acted by Indians? Is there an Indian texture that people like are drawn to, or are these just bureaucratic categories that we use for words?
I mean, it's what is India is such a complex thing, no? Like there are so many identities within this country, and what is that one identity that you say makes it Indian or not is a mystery to me. I don't know, but I mean, you have a film of say Ghotok, and more than half the country hasn't seen. So that like, is that an Indian film? It's not, because so many people don't know it. So what makes it an Indian film? I think what the statement that you are referring to was a technical one, which had to do with what film gets submitted to the Oscars. And if the director is Indian, I think that makes it an Indian film.
Now that your film is gone to the Oscars from France, I just want
No,
to
it's not gone. It's not gone. It's from France. No.
Okay.
It's
Are you planning to, are you planning to take it there? Oscars still is?
See, it's going to release in America
Right.
on the 15th of November.
Yeah.
You have friends, please tell them. We'll see, because the distribution will decide then, because once it releases, then we will
I
see
know
how it's
after all the reservary seasons के बाद they will decide.
हाँ,
There are
तो
few
उनके
days.
लिए उनके लिए क्या अच्छा है, क्या लोगों को अच्छी लगी वहाँ पे, उस हिसाब से फिर we'll see.
But I think for now we will focus on asking any questions.
Right in the US.
Ah, okay.
So I just want to know any particular thing you want to say to your audience in the US about this film.
Watch it, it's amazing.
Yeah, please come to watch the film.
That's okay, but beyond that,
I think even though the film is about Indian themes, I think it's also about big cities, and it's about like the mixed feelings we have as people who come to live in big cities, and what those cities have to offer us, and how they cause problems for us also. And that I think is a universal theme. And it's also a film about friendship amongst the women who come here. So that I hope that that resonates beyond our country's borders.
I think
Thank you.
There you go.
This is the cinematographer and the co-producer, and Zico, who's also the producer.
Come close, please.
And Nikki is also the producer.
Thank you.
Thank you.